Alright, Nintendo has officially revealed the Nintendo Switch 2. Though we haven't seen much about the Switch, there are some potential screen issues, the system's overall durability, and of course, games, but no games. So I thought it'd be fun to look at the Switch 2 trailer and look at everything wrong with the Nintendo Switch 2 so far. Our first order of business is, of course, the games. We've heard rumors and whispers about third-party games making a jump to Switch 2, and yet that's a no-brainer. In fact, we already know that Microsoft signed a 10-year deal with Nintendo to bring their games to the Switch and offer the same content as current-gen consoles. And games that weren't able to make it on the Switch 1 because of hardware-related issues will probably get ported to the Nintendo Switch. In fact, we've heard that Mr. Phil Spencer himself, the guy from, Xbox, is willing to port 10 to 12 games at launch. So, by golly. But the big concern a lot of people have with this brand new Nintendo console is that they showed off only Mario Kart 9, or whatever they're calling it. Technically, it's Mario Kart 10 because Mario Kart Tour was technically Mario Kart 9, but I think Nintendo's a little too shy to admit it. Now, looking at Mario Kart alone, people aren't upset about the name. They're more upset about the graphics, which is fair. Honestly, at first, I wasn't sure if this was Mario Kart 8 or not, but after further investigation, I still have a reason to live. It's pretty obvious the game doesn't scream next generation graphics. Sure, when you really look at it, there are some improvements, but the overall art style is not exactly pushing boundaries. But hear me out, that's kind of a good thing. When it comes to graphics, yes, I long for the day I can see the pores on Mario's nose, but Nintendo isn't about graphics. They're about gameplay, and I think Nintendo is using the system's power in that direction instead. We can already tell that the scale of this game is much bigger. Just look at the track. It looks massive. It's so vast that some people are even saying this might be an open world Mario Kart game, whatever that means. But I think the real power flex comes from the 24-player races, which doesn't seem like a lot, but hey, it's double than any Mario Kart in the past. And I also think that they could add more if they really wanted to. 50-player online matches, Mario Kart Battle Royale, that would be insane. And on top of the absolute crazy level, we also see that there's over 20 confirmed playable characters. That's right, my boy Bowie Kachowie is still in this game, and he's looking kind of cute. Anyways, am I worried about Mario Kart graphics? No. Gameplay beats graphics any day. As long as it runs at 60 frames per second and looks a tad better than Mario Kart 8, I'm a happy racing guy, my guy. While we're on the topic of games, you might have noticed this during the section where they talk about backwards compatibility. That's a little asterisk that said not every game would be playable. I mean, this makes sense. Most likely there are going to be a few games that won't work on this thing, and I think that they had to say this because, let's be real, I can't just go buy Ring Fit Adventure or Nintendo Labo and expect to play it on this system. The new console doesn't come with the OG Joy-Cons in the box, so this makes sense. And yeah, it's probably tied to very specific Joy-Con use cases, like the IR sensor. We haven't technically seen any sign of that yet on the new Switch, so it probably doesn't exist, or at least we think so. So time will tell what this actually means, but I'd imagine 99% of games will be compatible with the system. And honestly, I think the old Joy-Cons will probably still be usable, just not attachable. Now let's move on to the hardware itself. If you're in the Nintendo community at all, I'm sure you've heard about some of these concerns. And by golly, there's a lot of them. And yes, I'm a Nintendo glazer, but still, even I'm a little scared. First off, the big gimmick seems to be this mouse feature. And oh my, I'm so excited for this. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of this feature yet, or its exact use case, but I'm so curious to see how it'll be implemented into games. This could be a huge benefit for games like WarioWare or Mario Maker 3. And yes, you better believe Fortnite is about to be filled with sweaty Nintendo gamers. Fortniters on Nintendo Switch, rise up. But oh my goodness, here are some concerns that I've heard about this mouse feature. I've heard people say, if I set the controller on its side, won't it damage the side of the controller along with whatever surface it's being graded on? Well, obviously Nintendo wouldn't just implement a feature as big as this and not test it out. And also I think they're cautious enough that it wouldn't break the Joy-Con itself. That would be a fatal mistake. I actually noticed that there seem to be these little pads on the inside of the Joy-Con that should make the grinding a little easier on these girthy new controllers. Nintendo also made it a point to mention that they attach to the new straps before gliding. So maybe these straps have some benefit to the overall smoothness. I also have to wonder, how are you supposed to use this feature if there's no hard surfaces around? Would I be able to just wipe the Joy-Con on my pants when I'm sitting on the couch? And would this feature be completely useless in handheld mode? And when the inevitable Switch Lite comes out, will it just straight up deny this feature altogether? There's so many questions to be had about this feature, but only time will tell. Again, we have to assume Nintendo is either planning to use this feature sparingly for hardcore gamers, or it'll be built into more than just a mouse function, maybe something weird like Labo 2. Another concern I've seen floating around is the attachment securing the Joy-Con to the system will be easily breakable. Who is coming up with this stuff? Obviously this isn't going to snap off. This would be such a horrible design. I don't even understand the concerns about this at all. It's so nitpicky that I don't even have any thoughts other than bruh. Speaking of Joy-Con, one thing I did notice is that we only have one color. Will we see another color at launch? The Switch 1 had the gray Joy-Con and the red and blue Joy-Con. The Wii U had the white and the black one. Now, of course, the white one only had 8 gigabytes of storage, which is horrific, and the black one had 32 gigabytes of storage, that amazing Nintendo Land game. So maybe they could do a similar thing in this case. Maybe they'll launch the black one like we've seen, and a white one. Personally, I think mock-ups we've seen of the white one look very sleek, and you better believe that's the one I'd be going for, but the black one's cool too. And no doubt in the future there will be collector's editions. Become a member so I can afford it and unbox them for you when they do come out. Now, another thing I've seen people complaining about is the bezel. You know, the black bars around the edges. And yeah, they're noticeably bigger than even the Switch OLED, which is definitely a valid complaint. It is a little weird that they're adding a little more bezel, but hear me out, there could be a few reasons for this. First of all, it could just be an LED because of technical reasons, and they couldn't get an OLED to stretch out that far. Another reason is because the Joy-Con go inside of the controller, that they needed to make the black bezels on the side of the screen for some reason. I don't know. My honest guess is that they just wanted a slightly bigger bezel now so that when they eventually release an OLED model, they can increase the screen size again while keeping the same Joy-Con. Business at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Now, speaking of the display, another thing I've seen people complain about is the fact that it's an LED and not an OLED. It is a noticeable downgrade to get just an LED, but to be fair, LEDs these days have improved a lot compared to the 8 years ago on the Switch 1. I mean, have you seen the PlayStation Portal? That thing's an LED display and it's amazing. So I'm not too concerned about that. Once again, Nintendo will probably sell us an OLED model down the line. But now let's move on to the kickstand. This thing is a lot less beefy than the full-on kickstand from the Switch 1 OLED. They've now decided to go with a hollow design, and the complaint with the fact that it's hollow is that it's easily breakable and, you know, less sturdy. But they probably went with this hollow design to make more room for the important things inside the console, like a beefier battery and a bigger CPU. Maybe it's a fair trade-off, or maybe it's just Nintendo being Nintendo. But let's bring up the classic issue from the original Switch. We all know the first Switch had a massive Joy-Con drift problem. Do I think this will be resolved? Yes. They even made a point to emphasize the new sticks in the trailer, so I don't think it'll be a problem at all this time around. And now the elephant in the room, the price. Rumors suggest that the Switch 2 might come at a hefty price tag. Some leaks have pointed to the price between $400 and $500 USD. Heck, there was even a Mexican retailer that listed the price around $625 USD for the 256 gigabyte version and $725 USD for a higher configuration. However, a survey among gamers showed that over 50% believe the new console will debut at $399. If this thing costs anywhere near the price of the PS5 or Xbox, we might have a slight problem. I mean, I love me some Nintendo magic, but I'm not out here trying to sell a kidney just to play Mario Kart 9. I mean, Nintendo could literally make this $600 and I'd buy it because, you know, it's my job. I honestly believe it's going to be between $399 and $449 USD. I think they're going to make it slightly more expensive than the Switch OLED currently. So, I mean, here's my final guess. $429.99 US. That's what I'm thinking. Now, what about the storage? How much space are we getting on this thing? If it's still sitting at a measly 32 gigabytes or even 64, then we've also got a problem, especially if Call of Duty's on this thing. I mean, an update is over 100 gigabytes alone. Now, of course, we will see a micro SD slot on this thing, almost guaranteed. Hey, we gotta be concerned about it with Nintendo's historical lack of storage in devices. 8 gigabytes on the Wii U, how is that even possible? Anyways, those are some of the biggest complaints I've seen people talk about with the Switch 2 and everything wrong with it so far. Now, we have until April 2nd to find out everything that's actually wrong with it, if anything. But until then, we're just kind of left guessing and hoping that other people come out and say some more information on it. I really just want to see the games. The games are the most important part of this. Anyways, let me know your concerns in the comments, and hey, let me know if you're able to play the Switch 2 at one of the events. Please consider becoming a channel member to join the Vandies, and like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.